Not that I can, but you know. Again, this is the second time. Welcome, everyone. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, 5 different platforms, and also we're live here at Live. How about that? All right. So we're glad you're here. Saturday Night Live, Life Recovery. Life recovery means this is recovery from all the messiness of life. You probably haven't had any messiness in your life, but you probably know somebody that has, right? Sure. You're going to hide behind that pole all night? No. Okay. Okay. I mean, you can. You're big enough. I can still see parts of you. So. But anyway, tonight we're going to be covering step 6 again, just so that you know, because I don't think I've met you, so you're new. And Eric, it's been so long since you've been here, you may not know that. Remember this. That we go each step in relationship to the month that we're in. So we're in the 6th month, so we're doing 6th step. There are multiple different topics in our life recovery workbook and Bible that we have. And so tonight we're going to be covering discovering hope. And at the end of the meeting, I'm going to be talking about the 5 keys to restoring hope. How about that? You know, I think it's almost impossible to live without hope. I think that you have to have purpose and hope to be able to live, to really live. Maybe you can live, but that's just surviving. You can't really go ahead and thrive without purpose and hope. We're going to be talking about hope. I'm going to be talking about did I already say that what I was going to be talking about? The five keys to restoring hope. Did I already say that? Yeah. Anyway, I've got some really interesting stuff to talk about there. Plus, we have all of our information out of the Life Recovery Bible and Workbook. Step number 6 is we were entirely ready. Everybody say entirely ready. Entirely ready. Yeah, but you're not really entirely ready, but you're just working on it. That's okay. That's what this step's talking about. It's not that the whole entire step is about getting entirely ready. And the fact of it is a process. And even when we go ahead and take action, we're still probably not entirely ready. We're just ready enough to go ahead and take some action. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes. Because pushing this balance beam of what we have believed and what we really want to believe, that's probably in our best interest, and we know it is because this lines up with truth. Most of this lines up with non-truth, or what most of us call, well, we call it lies, we call it other things too, but that was a little bit of a joke. You missed it, I guess. But anyway, so it's hard to move that over, but it's a process, and it's little by little. You got to eliminate some stuff off here, but then you have to put some stuff on. You eliminate and add to, eliminate and add to, and then the next thing you know, stuff slips off what you're adding to, and stuff adds to the side that you don't want to add to. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway. We become entirely ready to have God remove our defects of character. And some of us are not entirely ready yet to have our defects of character because they're familiar, we like them.
I've had them for so long.
I've been telling you that, John. And
that's why the way I am the way I am.
It's comfortable. It's familiar, but it's killing me. Yeah. But that's all right. Don't mess me up with any true facts, right? Just because it's healthy doesn't mean I should choose it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're coming to that place, and this step is a transitional time to help us do that, and we work on it for an entire month. What do you think about that? All right. So So then we'll be talking about step 6. We'll be talking about discovering hope. We'll be talking about the 5 keys to restoring hope. And this is out of John 5, 1 through 15. An interesting story. Willie and Tommy will be talking about. Tommy's going to be talking about the step, and Willie will be doing the reflection, and you all get to participate. How about that? With your comments and input. So our next part is thoughts, questions, and quotes that I hit. I only have a few because we got a lot of information we're going to be covering tonight. And I thought Werner Heisenberg was a good quote. Anybody familiar with Heisenberg? Okay. Well, he was he won the Nobel Prize in 1932 for physics. He was one of the creators of quantum physics. See how, you sit around here, you pick up all this stuff, and look at Matthew. See, he looks so much smarter than when he first got here, right? At least he laughed when I said that, right? So anyway, this was his quote, and I thought is an interesting quote. I've cited it once before, I believe, here. And this is the quote: "The first gulp of the glass of natural science, which turns you into an atheist. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting on you." I thought that was interesting. From a Nobel Prize winner. Here's a quote that I have not used before. For some reason I have multiple quotes here by Viktor Frankl, which was the writer of Man's Search for Meaning. He said this, among other things, but what we'll talk about tonight is what matters is to make the best of any situation. Now, if you don't know Viktor Frankl, he was in the Nazi death camp. In fact, I think he was in 3 different ones, at least 2. And all of his family was exterminated in the death camp. I think some of his family was experimented on medically before they died. And he said that every morning he woke up, he had 1 in 37 or 39 chance to survive that day. So he survived. In fact, he told some stories about one of his, he actually worked with a doctor there some, and they became friends. And the doctor told him, said you need to go to the restroom because you got bowel trouble, and stay there for a while. And he said, why? He says, well, they're going to load up and they're going to take everyone and kill him. And he was trying to save his life. He says, no. He said, for some reason, he said, no. If they're going to die, they're my friends. I'm going to go with them. And if I remember the story correctly, they loaded them up and they took them to another camp, and everybody left in the camp died. And so, anyway, he went through a lot. So, anyway, why I was there. And let's see, I had another quote from Viktor Frankl. He says, "The meaning of life is to help others find the meaning of their life." And I thought that kind of tells us a little bit about Saturday Night Live Life Recovery, helping you find it's not really finding, it's rediscovering that purpose that was put into you before you took your first breath. And so, and it also kind of ties in with my topic later on about the 5 keys to restoring hope. So anyway, So a little bit of review about the keys that I wanted just to touch on it just a moment, and then we'll go to Miracle. She's going to read the 12 steps. That's your first warning, Miracle.
Okay.
And so it is. I think I skipped too far, or maybe not much. This is it. Yeah. Okay. All right. 5 ways to restore hope. Researchers show how to overcome the challenges and build greater resiliency. Anybody here know what resiliency means?
You would be able to withstand problems.
Okay. Matthew, you want to say something?
Yeah.
You flinched there.
Well, I kind of understand about how to put it out there.
Okay.
So others,
You know, the reason why I ask questions is to try to help people to think through things, you know, and when I get you to start thinking, even if you don't get it all the thought out now, you may get out some of it later. What do you think about that? And John's pretty much right. It's endurance, you know, being able to endure. Hello?
Hi, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. And so resilience is being able to endure, to be able to stick in there. Some people just give up, right? They just give up. They can't handle any difficulty. That was not Viktor Frankl, right? He had a lot of resiliency. So, and some key points that they pointed out. This is out of and I got this out of psychologytoday.com, and they said the 5 points that I'm going to be talking about later. It says restoring hope begins by managing one's stress reaction. In other words, by managing your stress reaction. Okay? Restoring hope begins with your management. It's not somebody else managing your stuff, it's you managing your own stuff. You get it? Hello. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Second point they made was everyone can return to a hopeful mindset by taking 90 seconds to pause. Okay. You know, when you fly off the handle or flip your lid or have a reaction. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You probably never done it, but you know somebody. Yes. Well, they're saying that you can build hope by being able to take a pause, take a 90-second pause, all right? They go on to say, and you could breathe deeply, have some mindful breaths, and using some other stress skills, which we'll be talking about later. Point number 3 that we're talking about on the keys here, and that is that the key points, that is, cultivate happiness habits. Have you ever thought about that? We cultivate unhappiness habits, do we not?
All the time.
I usually call them things we do to ourselves, like self-sabotage, right? And poison ourselves by different things. I've been studying a lot about lying here lately, and I did my Thursday video online, and I found some new research that the researchers were saying that lying literally makes you sick. Can you believe that? It makes you physically ill. Makes you physically ill. And the scripture says that a liar hates their victim. Hating is a strong word. And I would say, normally would say, well, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not really hating them. It's just an act of hate, right?
Where are we?
We're nowhere in there,
Oh, okay,
but we will be here in a moment.
okay,
We'll be in step 6.
okay.
And when, Tommy, you get up here, you can give her the page. How about that? There's a book right beside you. There's a book right beside you. Let's see. Where are we at? All right, cultivating happiness habits. Hey, by the way, did you know our brain was not initially created to make us happy?
I don't believe that.
Suit yourself. Believe a lie if you want to, but it's not healthy.
It was not created to
You just
create
like to pick on me.
Our brain is created to keep us safe, not to make us happy, as far as primary. Secondary, yes, it's to help us to be happy, but that means you have to get over your ability to overreact to things and go into fight, flight, or freeze mode to be able to be happy. Something to think about. My wife said this information was too much for you. Is this information too much for you?
No,
No.
Are you sure? Okay. It could be. Okay, I got to finish up this point, and we got to get going. So, cultivate happiness habits like spending time in nature. Nature has its own way of bringing us into healing. Hi, Chris. And connecting with friends, and I would say healthy friends. I'd say healthy, mature friends. How about that? Healthy, mature, and loving, non-condemning type of friends. Okay, and then setting goals. Goals are good. That goals, setting appropriate goals helps us to move forward. That is actually a faith act, and that is beneficial. So setting goals can help you to develop a hopeful mindset. One more final point that I'm going to be talking about later when we were talking about the brain. I just learned this, so this is new information. I thought it was pretty interesting. And they were talking about the brain. Last week I talked about the higher nature and lower nature. Remember that? Well, they talked about the brain having an upstairs brain and a downstairs brain. And our downstairs brain is what they call the lizard brain. And they're saying, like, if you take your hand, your palm and your wrist area here, the bottom of your brain. Your amygdala is in there, and if you fold your thumb over there, that's your hippocampus, which is part of your memory aspect, and it is covered by your frontal cortex, or your part of your brain that is the most mature. Okay, that's your thinking part of your brain, your reasoning part of your brain. This down here is your reactive. This is fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn. Okay, and this up here helps to guide the other parts. But when we flip out or flip off, or whatever you want to call it, we lose our ability to think. Then this part starts to take over.
then you do stupid stuff.
You have the tendency to follow out habit patterns you created for just survival that may not be totally appropriate.
Stupid stuff.
Stupid stuff. Yeah. Okay. I just didn't want to say that. All right, Miracle, come on up here and give us the 12 steps. Thanks, everybody. Sound interesting? Maybe? All right.
Doug won't be surprised at this, but I'll read a couple verses in the Bible. Romans 5 says, "But whom we also have access into faith, into grace, wherein we stand and rejoice in hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation works patience, patience experience," or character. Some versions say character. And experience produces hope. And hope does not make us ashamed. And so I hope I didn't just totally go out of line there, but I stand on that. You know, that sometimes we do have to go through stuff, but it gives us hope and it doesn't disappoint us. So, 12 steps. Step 1, we admitted that we are powerless over our problems and that our lives have become unmanageable. Good time to say amen, somebody.
Amen.
And number 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and lives over to the care of God. Number 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, we admitted to God ourselves and to another human being of exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we are entirely ready to have God to remove these defects of character, which that's the step we're on now. Number 7, we are humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, we have made a list of all the persons we have harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. And number 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, we continue to take personal inventory. We are wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. And all these almost 14 years that I've been here, the last one is my favorite and almost probably will always be my favorite. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of all these steps, we try to carry out this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Tommy.
I was thinking about some stuff I said, I think last time we worked this like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was thinking, I don't want God to take stuff that's me, but what am I gonna be, you know? I was scared, but now it's okay.
What does that mean it's okay?
I'm okay with it. I'm perfectly fine. I will meet him halfway.
You mean
I'll do my best.
you'll throw your sleeping mat beside the bubbling water
Yes,
and work towards it?
Yeah.
Just check.
yes. Discovering hope. Bible reading, John 5, 1 through 15. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. How can we honestly say that we are entirely ready for God to remove our defects of character? If we think in terms of all or nothing, we may get stuck here because we'll never feel entirely ready. It is important to keep in mind that the 12 steps are guiding ideas. No one can work them perfectly. Our part is to keep moving to get as close as we can to being ready. In Jesus' day, there was a pool where people went hoping to experience miraculous healing. One of the men laying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" "I can't, sir," the sick man said, "for I have no one to put me in the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me." Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." Instantly, the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. John 5, 5 through 9. The man was so crippled that he couldn't go any further on his own. He camped as near as he could to a place where there was hope for recovery. God met him there and brought him the rest of the way. For us, entirely ready may mean getting it close, may mean that. For us, entirely ready may mean getting as close to the hope of healing as we can in our crippled condition. When we do, God will meet us there and take us the rest of the way. I had a situation or an incident that happened Monday. I slipped on some water and I didn't think I hurt myself or nothing. And by Wednesday morning and Tuesday in the nighttime, I couldn't get up out of bed and like walk. I couldn't put no pressure on my foot. And a friend told me that I probably sprang it and then went to sleep and that I needed to just walk on it. So I did. I'd walk on it and put some ice on it. And I woke up the next day and I could walk. And I was amazed that, you know, maybe a little bit of pressure is good sometimes, you know. But I can see how that guy just, I kind of knew what he felt like, just sitting there going, I can't get up. I'm kind of helpless. I can crawl to the fridge or if I had to, but I waited, you know. And I thought it was so odd that I sprained my ankle on this week, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool how that happens. Any questions, you guys? Any thoughts?
I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm in my own world right now. I mean, I really do apologize. I did not hear a word you just said. I really do apologize. I'm not trying to be self-centered
No, you're
or
okay.
anything like that, but would you please repeat what you just said?
What? Which one?
Or if it's okay with you, Doug.
Oh, the part where
I don't know what it is she's asking you to repeat.
oh, well, like during the week, I was saying, like guys was talking about the crippled guy, and I had hurt my ankle and I couldn't get up and move around real well, and I kind of understood what that was like to have to wait for someone to come help you,
Right.
you know? Any questions, Doug?
So you're saying that what you're pointing out that meant a lot to you here, the story and your experience,
Yeah,
is the willingness to be humble.
yeah, because I could have got angry, I could have threw a fit that nobody really wanted to come help me, but I didn't really ask nobody for help.
Say that again. I like that very end. You didn't ask nobody.
I didn't ask nobody, and that's when
Pride-
nobody,
Not trying to be say pride, but I mean,
yeah,
some of us, we just don't like asking people
No.
for help.
it's hard because it seems like,
Yeah.
And he made that statement, I don't have a man to help me. And Willie and I was talking about this, so I may be stealing some of his stuff. But, you know, he was sick for 38 years. Now, and I remember I studied many years ago that the average lifespan for Romans during that time, which is that time that we're talking about,
30-something
was
years.
30-some years.
Yeah.
And he's already been sick for 38, so he's been sick probably his whole life, maybe. And so he, you know, we don't think 38 is probably an old person. I didn't.
Back then, in them days, yeah.
But
Different.
now those days, he was
Rough.
at the end of the thing, and so he had worked his way up there, and what I'm going to be talking about later, and maybe tying into that, is about we create limits to ourselves, and we create limits to ourselves. We say there's things I can't do, and I got legitimate reasons, so that's the reason why it can't happen.
Working the steps was one of them. I can't do that. I can't do
Yeah.
that. I don't want
How
to do
many
that.
people say, well, I don't need to
Can't
work
do
the
that.
steps, I don't want to work the steps, I don't have to work the steps, all kinds of reasons, right? And soon as they finally, somewhere along the line, start to give into that, they see how beneficial, and it adds a greater dimension to their life, right? And so here he is, he's struggling, and he is having a hard time, and he does have some limits, as we got limits. But the good thing about this guy, he kept on coming. The last line here, I think on what you read there was, God will meet you or meet us
Yeah.
there and take us
The rest of the way.
the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And so the way we would say it, we have to be willing to do our part, which is probably going to be uncomfortable. Right, Miracle?
Yeah, it will be, definitely be.
Yeah.
It's better than the mess you're in, though.
Yeah. It's better than dying.
Yeah.
Right? So if we do our part, that gives an opening for him to do his part. But I wonder what would happen if he hadn't done his part. I wondered if he wouldn't have been there that day. I'm talking about the sick man.
Yeah.
What if he just said the day before, I'm just going to go home because it's not working out for me.
And he lost all that time getting up there
Right.
line.
Yeah, because he had to fight his way to that position. I'm pretty sure he had to stick in there and move a body at a time, you know. And so that was a prize spot, I'm thinking, that he had. So I guess the point here is it's a process, but it's not an easy process.
No.
But it's a worthwhile process. What do you think about that?
Very worthwhile process. I believe that because I'm here now. I've been, through a lot of addictions. I've been through a lot of strange times in life, and I'd rather be here today having worked through these steps, than having not.
So, in working through these steps, what do you think is the biggest thing that you've gotten out of the steps to help you to be where you're at?
I feel a little more whole in life. I feel like my priorities are better. I feel like it helped me see things differently and better,
How does that make you feel?
peaceful. Like, it gives me courage. It gives me strength to really move forward,
And our lesson tonight is about
discovering hope.
hope and the courage to move forward. Would that be
Yes,
hope?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, hope.
So, here's my question.
All right,
Is hope a good thing?
yes. It can be scary at first because I didn't realize what it was, like that peace and that hope. I didn't know what it was, and then the more that I do these steps or live without my addiction in my life, it really becomes clear.
So, help us understand what you mean by the statement, hope can be scary.
Because I think I'm just gonna fail and go back to my addiction.
Oh, okay.
And basically that's what the scary part is, that I hope for better stuff in life and better way of life, and like sometimes my actions lead me back to my addiction.
Like sabotaging yourself,
Self-sabotage, yeah.
overreacting.
Overreacting, yes.
Uh-huh.
Grabbing at straws.
Grabbing at straws, what you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Letting your mind run away with you.
Yes, that's a dangerous one. That is.
So what do you do to help you to have that peace that you're talking about and have the hope?
I tend to keep my circle small. Like, I come to the meeting, I try to stay around positive people and put positive things in my life and be careful what I do because it could be dangerous. Because any littlest thing can trigger my crazies, And all of a sudden here, I got something crazy going on in my life, and I don't understand how it happened. But today, I can almost stop it before it gets too out of control.
Good, good. So you're saying you still can be triggered, but you're not triggered as
Severely.
severely or
as
as easily?
easily or as intensely.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's progress, right?
Thank you, yes. I'll accept that.
So, Willie,
Thank you.
thanks.
I think you did a beautiful job.
That's Mr. T. Good evening. Hi, Willie.
I want you to just think for a minute, just think what hope means to Eunice. Because to everybody in the room here, we all got one hope that's in common. And that is where it gets scary. Like Tommy said, it can be if you let it. The hope that we need is like the man at the pool. He went as far, like I said, he went as far as he could. He had nowhere else to turn. But yet the hope found him. Jesus found him and said, now you've been here a while. Get up and go. That's the kind of hope we're looking for. But we got to look for it the right way. We got to stay with these steps. They're just guidelines. There's no right or wrong way to do these. They're just a guideline to help us to stay on the right, straight way. And as I go through my second year of doing these, I see the changes from the first year to the second. And it's probably going to change from the third year to the fourth.
Yes.
But if this is what I've got to keep me from going back to the way I was, that's the hope I need. That's the way I want it. So now I'll get to the questions. Question 1, what has been my excuses for not moving forward in my recovery? What has been my excuses? What hasn't been? I mean, I can use anything, you know. First year, I could feel I wasn't deserving of it because of the things I've done. I don't deserve to be rectified or that ain't the word I want. That.
Have recovery,
Right.
forgiveness,
Yeah,
reconciliation.
Second year going through this, what's my excuse for now? You know, what if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? You know, it's just, so that's where I gotta get all them excuses out of my head so that the hope is there to keep me straight. Question 2, have I been stubbornly resistant of becoming entirely ready because I have been afraid of change? Yes. Fear keep you from doing a lot of things. But if you got hope, fear ain't nothing. Are my defects too?
Wait a second. I think you ought to ask the group that question. Have you been stubborn?
Have you been stubbornly resistant of becoming entirely ready because you were afraid of change?
Yes.
Matthew says no.
I says no.
Explain.
This time.
This time,
Yeah.
this time.
This time.
Congratulations. I'm glad you explained it.
Many tries.
Are my defects too comfortable and familiar? Yeah. I've lived with them for years. I've developed them. They're a part of what I am. That's why I need that hope. To me, discovering hope, that's God. That's all there is to it. I'm done.
About my question.
Questions? Yes, sorry, I'm not done. My bad.
So, what, from your perspective, since you're done the reflection, what, from your perspective, it's easy for you to say, are your defects, why are you so comfortable with your defects, and why are they familiar to you?
Cause I went years doing them. I went years, you know, okay, that's the way I am. That's me. It's the way I am.
So that, you said that's me, so you're
Yeah.
saying these defects, you said you saw them as you,
I created them. They were what I was.
okay? And now something's different.
Something's different.
What's different?
The fact that I realized I don't need that to survive. I don't need that kind of life no more.
Okay? Alright. And so now that you have come to that awareness, are those defects still as comfortable as they once were?
No. They're more of a nuisance in an aspect. When they pop up, I'm like, no, I can't do that.
So when we are dealing with eliminating our defects of character, so what do we do when they do pop back in or up, as you said? What do you do?
In my situation, I just have to take a step back. And then I have to just wait and see what their next move is, and then I counteract that move with what I can and try to make the best out of the bad situation.
Best healthy decision that you can.
Right.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. So what do you think so far? Good. You can go a lot of places, but you might not get as good a stuff as this, right?
Right.
Yeah. So.
Especially a snack and a coffee.
John's on that coffee back there, isn't he? A little strong? Yeah, well, it's too weak. Coffee's strong to those weak guys, Chris. Coffee's strong to those weak guys.
You step on me, then the next person steps on me, thanks, though.
Hey, I'm glad you're here tonight, Chris,
I'm glad I'm here too.
but I want to pick on you while you're here, okay? Okay, so we're talking about step 6. We're talking about, getting entirely ready. So hopefully some of our discussion and you guys putting yourself out there. We're talking about that man being vulnerable, as you was talking about, Tommy. Both of you guys are being vulnerable by talking. Some of you that are interacting and talking, you're putting yourself out there being vulnerable. It's not easy, but I believe personally it's healthy. Because we have a mindset that we should be able to heal alone, but we know that's not true. We have to have healthy connections. Neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity.
Yes, that means you grow new brain cells. What wires together fires together, or what fires together wires together. Actually, so you pull that rabbit out of the hat. That's several years old there, Chris.
Come on, ain't that?
Okay, so 5 ways to restore our hope. Many of us are feeling exhausted and hopeless. This is out of this article. I want to read you their opening statement here. We've been experiencing this global pandemic. We've been We've been hearing constant chatter about climate change, natural disasters, political upheaval, economic insecurity, all kinds of mental health crisis and issues, and suicide, and unsafety, and all kinds of different things that we personally have been going through. And then we have a enormous stress in our own personal life without these global things going on, which were some of the things we already mentioned about, that's right here with us, of trying to deal with life. And so, and when you're experiencing that, you feel overwhelmed. Okay? We've talked about this before. And when you feel overwhelmed, that's that survival mechanism, that brain part that we were talking about, that's down here in this part of the brain, okay? It's the survival. God created us to survive, not to be happy, but to survive, okay? You know, it's not be happy first and then work on being surviving. No, you gotta survive to be able to get anywhere close to being happy, right? So he wired us to survive, and our amygdala is the threat assessment that's going on. And when you get overwhelmed, that means your amygdala is assessing threat, warning, alert, right? And when you're doing that, when your amygdala sends out the alert, it goes right to your cortex, your frontal cortex. It shuts it down. So because when it's survival, you don't need to think.
Use drugs.
Do what?
It says use drugs.
It says survive. It says survive. And if we have incorporated and practiced and lived with and become familiar and comfortable with unhealthy coping mechanisms that may have helped us to survive a present day threat, but that survival maybe got us through, but it costs you a lot. And we keep going back. We can keep going back to that well, and it costs more and more and gives less and less and takes a lot. Would you agree with that? And so when we're in this place of being overwhelmed, where we feel like we're alone, okay? And researchers, and this is out of the New York Times article. It says that that they predict the next pandemic being that we are actually develop languishing. Languishing means kind of stuck or overwhelmed and shut down.
Imagine if we had a natural disaster right
Yeah. And so we're in that state, and that would be the dominant emotion, just kind of unplugged. And that's the reason why I'm talking about what we're talking about here tonight, is because without hope, we stay stuck. Does that make sense? And excuse me? We languish. That's it. That's the word they use, languishing. And so I want to give you some tools to help. But first, before I do that, I want to give you the stats they cited. I know it's adding more bad stuff on top of that, but let's recognize reality the way that it is, and so we accept reality the way it is, not that we like it, but so that we can deal with it. That's why we first have to be able to name it so that we can tame it, right? All right, so here we are. In America, this is their stats, and it's in America, 84% of the adults are experiencing prolonged stress. Duh, right? Would you agree with the duh? So, and 40% have had symptoms of anxiety and depression and other disorders. And I think it's probably more than that, right? Because the fact of it is, most people self-medicate, and so it's not reported, whether it's prescription drugs, illicit drugs, alcohol, other soothing methods, whether it's pornography, gambling, food, whatever your mechanism is, right?
Big one, denial.
Denial, yes. But see, the denial causes you to be more overwhelmed and turns you to other mechanisms to deal with it. And what we're going to be talking, hopefully I can get across tonight is for us, I'll give you some techniques and some tools and some information, but you have to figure out what works for you. And that means you may have to do some research. You may pick up on some that I give you, but I was doing research looking for tools and techniques and skills. And I went through one that said 80 skills, another said 100 skills, and so there's a lot of skills, but not everything works for everybody. Okay. So you have to find what works for you, and they have to be healthy for you. Okay. You say, well, I have a coping mechanism, but they say it's illegal, but I'm not talking about that one. Okay. All right. I want you to have healthy coping mechanisms. Now, I'm going to take one more step up. Okay. I'm going to make it even harder. I'm sorry, but the fact of it is, the first step is learning healthy coping mechanisms. Yes. Did you hear me? I said yes. But the fact of it is, if we continue to only live on coping mechanism, then that will diminish our ability to go on and thrive in life. So we have to learn to move off of healthy coping mechanisms. Okay, we can create healthy patterns, healthy habits. Okay, but I'm talking about other things. And then when you get really overwhelmed, yes, then you can pick up those coping mechanisms to help you because they are healthy. But we have to learn to be able to get that resiliency. And I know I'm speaking way up here. Yes, Linda, you're right. But I at least need to mention it. Okay.
That be happy, no matter what?
Do I?
Be happy no matter what?
You talking about as a technique? Yeah. A Pollyanna type technique. Is that what you're talking about? Well, we can't, happiness is important, okay? And I think we all want to have reasonable happiness, but really the goal here is, and Tommy touched on it, is having peace and having some joy, which is wrapped up in knowing and fulfilling your purpose. Okay? And I know those that may be foreign words for some of you, but hopefully for some of you here and some of you out there in video land, and that's remember last week when I was talking about the lower nature and higher nature? Okay? Do what? The lower nature and higher nature, lower nature, our flesh nature, is our survival part of our nature, and we have to survive. But if we stay there and I'm going to stay here and remember I talked about the worm, caterpillar, and the butterfly. The lower nature is the worm. So if you just decide, well, I can't be any more than a worm, I'm just going to stay here and be wormy all my life. And that's the lower nature, but God has a greater plan for us. He wants us to move on through that, but you have to know that you can, so that you're able to. Right? You follow me? Okay.
Maslow called that top layer self-action.
That's right. Self-actualization. That's easy for you to say. Actualization, and that's coming to that. Knowing your purpose, being that, and also being that for other people. So So, 40% with the symptoms I talked about, anxiety and depressive disorders, and nearly half, and I think it's higher than this because back in the 60s, it was going up as far as college students, but nearly half of the college students, they said here in this research study, was 47% were recorded with clinical depression and anxiety. And this is according to the American Psychiatric Association. This is in 2021. And so yes, we're in a state, but we have hope, or we can get some hope. Hopefully you feel some hope, okay? Or having a connection of hope. There is a chance, okay? There is a way through this hellish minefield. Yes, there is. And there's been many people that have walked through it. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have this false belief, I'm smashing another one right here, okay? Maybe I am too hard tonight. Maybe I ought to let you live in some fantasy, but a lot of us think that if we can just get the golden ring or hit the golden circle, then everything after that is great. That's fantasy. That's not right. That never happens. We can have a goal of reaching a target, but the fact of it is, as soon as you reach that target, in a few hours or a few days, the excitement and the endorphins from hitting that target diminishes, and that's where you have to continue to move on. Does that make sense? So it's a continual growth process in life, from layer to layer, to process, up the stairway. You said, why does it have to be so hard? I'll tell you, because if you didn't have some compelling future to pull you into it, you'd become bored. And then when you're bored, you know what you do when you do boredom? You know what they say the number one cause of drug addiction is? Boredom. What does that mean that I just said? It means God has designed us to continue to grow. And if you stop growing, then you get bored, and then you're going to self-sabotage yourself. Or hook up with somebody to do it for you. Yeah. You get my idea? So, all right, let's go forward. I think I'm done with that one. Yeah, that was number 6. Yeah, okay. Yet, the dedicated group of researchers and educators have found a way to help us overcome the sense of hopelessness. That's what we're going to be talking about here in a minute. They have developed a powerful new way to restore your hope. The combining stress management. So we got to do stress management. You got to manage your stress. You can't just pretend it's going to go away. You gotta deal with it. Okay? Hello? You got me? Hear me? All right? You can't say, well, somebody, there's a problem. I know there's a problem coming, and I'm going to try to hide from it. How has that worked out for you in the past?
I'm here.
That's my point. And so here we are. They have developed a powerful way to restore hope by combining stress management with powerful emotions plus inspiring actions. Okay, restoring hope. You need to be able to manage chronic stress. That stress that's coming on. Hey, we live in a stressful world. In fact, we have to have stress. Many years ago, I learned about trees. My brother is an arborist, and he was talking about that trees that never experience any difficulty or bad weather, they don't, or any drought or dry seasons, they don't build up any resiliency, and they're easily broken, or all their roots is on top because they haven't burrowed their roots deeper. And the point is that when you cut a tree down, you can look at those rings and you can see the difficult times, the hard times, the dry times, and that's what they call the hearthwood or the hardwood, because the rings are closer together. Okay, you follow me? That's when we develop some strength, or what we're going to call tonight resiliency. And you just thought it was a hard time, but it was a time that could make you, help you, grow you, build you. Hello?
So what you're saying is those hard times make us thrive.
Well, Nietzsche said, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Unless your tree's on the edge of the pond.
But the fact of it is that tree can be easily blown over. How many trees have you seen on the creek bank that has been blown over? Right? Okay. So, restoring hope. Okay, I already read. Okay. Restoring our hope brings us to managing our chronic stress. And when we're feeling fearful, angry, or anxious, we can get stuck in our survival mode. That's that fight, flight, freeze, and fawn survival modes. Okay? And that's a natural reaction, a natural survival reaction to threat. Okay? Do I need to say that again? This fight, flight, okay? Fight, you know what fight is, okay? You know, somebody pushes you, you get angry, you can fight back, or you defend yourself. If it's too threatening, you say, no, I can't handle that, so I take off, right? Flight.
Yeah.
Freeze is, it's like, well, let's use it for instance, an animal comes, you come up to a bear, you freeze, or another animal comes up, you know, particularly possums, or talked about playing possum. You know, I've watched a video of a gazelle being caught by a lion, or it was a hyena, one or the other. And I think it was a lion, but the lion was attacked by a hyena, and the gazelle was just, looked like it was dead. But soon as the lion attacked the hyena that was coming after it, the gazelle woke up and took off. Okay, because it was in the freeze mode. Okay, and that's a survival mechanism, and we all have it. There are people that go into freeze. They can't think. They can't do anything. They can't talk. They try to shrink. They try to almost. It's like they're trying to disappear. You follow me? Yeah. It's survival. Okay. I'm going to get to the point here in a minute. And then you have the fawning. Fawning is trying to ingratiate yourself to someone that is a threat to you to try to keep yourself safe. In other words, you're trying to act like you're trying to be friendly to them. So because you're under threat, because you're afraid that they'll hurt you or harm you or whatever. And so you try to be buds with them to be able to find a way to get out of there. Okay, that's fawning. Okay, blowing smoke or whatever you want to call it. All right. Now, the thing of it is, and this is so fascinating to me, is our brain decides, probably even before we know what's going on, how we're going to react, and has selected it for us. And we're into it. You follow me? Whether it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Because it selects how, I don't know, okay? The brain gets information information comes to you before you're cognitively aware of that information, okay? And your amygdala, which is wired directly right into your nervous system, sends messages of what we're supposed to do. And if you're supposed to freeze, it locks you up. You follow me? Does that make sense? Is that too much? Okay. So it talks about, and this mechanism I'm talking about here, they refer to that as the downstairs brain, okay, because it's downstairs here, right? It's part of that primary brain, the lizard brain, the first part of the brain that was developed, okay? That's what helps you to breathe and function, and your heart to keep beating, okay? All right? Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to use these 5 keys that I'm going to be talking to you about. And that's that frontal cortex I talked about, the upstairs brain. This is to help us to restore hope, to put us in a different mindset, okay? And that mindset is to have calmness, to be calm, to have some clarity, okay? In other words, you remember the quote from Spinoza, emotion, which is suffering, okay? I got a little insight on that even more this week about the emotion which is suffering, and that is that thing that's causing you suffering, that emotion that which is suffering, that's causing you suffering, ceases to be suffering. In other words, it will cause you to be suffering soon as you have a clear and precise picture of it. And soon as if you're able, you can't get a clear and precise picture of what's going on if you're not able to be calm, because you don't have your frontal cortex, you don't have your front brain here. You're not able to have clarity. You're not able to have confidence. Okay, and that's the upstairs brain. And so these 5 keys, they had it in a acronym, which is SHINE, SHINE, and those 5 keys that help you to be in your upstairs brain and stay out of the downstairs as much as possible. Okay, you can go down there to get a sandwich, but then you come on back up. Okay, I just threw that in there. All right, the first one, and that is S for SHINE, and that is stress skills. Okay, won't take me long, I don't think. So when we're emotionally triggered, our body releases stress hormones. We know that, right? And it puts us into that survival mode, which is what I just was talking about. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Okay, it sends the message. It has a direct path to our nervous system, and it causes our body to react, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Okay. We cannot think clearly enough to make up some solutions to the problem here. Okay, because we're shut down. Our brain is shut down. But when we become calm, we're able to return back to having a hopeful mindset with using some of these skills that we're talking about. And the first one here is stress skills. We need to find some stress skills. And here are some stress skills, which I kind of already mentioned them in the key points earlier. And one of them is taking 90 seconds. In other words, you made a mention about stepping back, okay? Stepping back from the situation. You can do that literally, or you can do that mentally, emotionally, okay? I learned many years ago to downshift emotionally. In my old truck that I learned to drive in, which was a 3-speed, when I would downshift to kind of slow down, right? Makes sense, right? And so for some reason I could visualize downshifting inside and slowing myself down instead of being spun up. You know what I mean? What happens when you get spun up? We're not really for sure, because sometimes we flip out and we lose our mind. Hello, right? So we need to learn some skills, okay, stress skills to manage the skills. One's taking a 9-second pause, breathing slowly. Breathing is so important. If you take time to breathe in through your nose, okay. Now I heard something new just this week, because I always heard in through your nose, hold it, out through your mouth, hold it, breathe in through your nose, hold it, and they call that box breathing, 4-4-4, which I have done. I've done a lot. It's been helpful. But I heard somebody say to help us send our body messages, because we're trying to send our bodies messages here. They said, make sure you breathe always through your nose, because when you get stressful, you breathe through your mouth a lot. Right? So if you use conscious breathing and go ahead and breathe through your nose, your body says, well, you're breathing through your nose. So that's a signal saying that I'm not really under stress. So I can relax. I don't have to release all these threat hormones, right? Okay, just a thought. See if it works for you. If not, try something else. Walk through nature. I have a person that says some of their healthiest spot, their most calming spot, is to be able to walk through the woods for them, and looking at the fauna and the flowers and the birds, and so it helps them. And so you find what helps you. I remember a guy I used to work with. He said, I'm going to have to drive down by the river tonight and sit there for a while. And he did, And I think that's a good thing to know when you need to do it, and then go ahead and do it when you need to, right? Yep. So you and that's a whole lot better than letting that stuff fester in you instead of dealing with it. Because if you don't deal with it, if you don't recognize it, if you don't name it, then you can't tame it, right? All right, so it's taking longer than I thought. All right, so connecting with nature, talking to a friend, remember a healthy, safe friend, listening to calming music, etc., etc., etc. Some people can listen to some music and it mellows them out. They have particular things that they can listen to, and that's all right. Okay, that's all right. Whatever works for you when you're in crisis, work it. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And then as we spend more and more time, okay, as we're able to learn how to manage it, recognize it, and manage what's going on, we get better at it. And then, as Willie was saying earlier, I'm better than I was last year because I'm more aware. I have greater peace. I got greater insight. Okay? You follow me?
Yeah.
You feel me? Yeah. Okay.
Better support
Do what?
for me, anyway. Yeah, I have a better support.
Yeah, and support, finding some healthy support. And these strategies will move you up into your upstairs brain, out of the downstairs. For some reason, I thought a basement. Okay, out of the basement in the upstairs. Okay, because you do have the midbrain there. Okay, so all right, but that was my creation. All right, number 2, happiness habits. Okay, you need to cultivate more positive feelings, and this can help you to have a hopeful mindset. You need to cultivate these positive feelings. All right. And, one of the best positive feelings that individuals can have is having finding things that you're grateful for, okay? Not what you should be grateful for, but what you are grateful for. Don't pretend you're grateful. Be grateful for what you're grateful for. And sometimes we let those things slip by. I was watching my grandkids Wednesday, and they wanted to go to the river because one of their favorite things they like to do is go to the river and catch crawdads and fish and stuff like that, and in shallow water, and just walking around watching them. My granddaughter, which is 5, she always wants to go to the deep part, and because she has no fear, and those are the ones you got to watch. And so, but it was just, I told my daughter, I said, this gives me a lot of pleasure just to watch them, to know that they're having fun, they're learning, okay? And they never want to leave when we're ready to leave, but God sent a snake, and that helped. they decided it was time to leave when he saw the snake. I said, God, you sent that, thank you. And so, no harm, no foul, just a little motivation. So,
I think he's gone.
do I?
Nothing, I was just kidding.
Okay, and so, slow breathing, exercise is better than Prozac. And then connecting with the nature again. Oh, wait a minute, this is, slipped back up the wrong one. All right, so habits include positive morning routines. Morning routines are so important because that sets your order for today. One of the biggest problems with us nowadays is to get dysregulated. What does that mean? Is you get out of sorts. Some people call it moody. You get overwhelmed, you get anxious, you get down in the basement emotionally, right? And what we have to do is we have to have a healthy, normal routine. My daughter told me the other day, she said, I talked to her about, because she works for me part-time, and I said something about that. She says, oh, I enjoy getting to do that because I don't even have to hardly even think about what I do. I know the first thing I do when I get there, I get the mail, I do the mail, open up the mail, pay the bills, and I'll go into routine. And she said, it's kind of peaceful. Now, it didn't used to be that way. Okay. All right. But now that it's a routine, see, when you make a habit, your brain, God has given us this ability to run these habits for us, but we have to make sure that they're healthy habits. We've made some unhealthy habits that we have to recognize and destroy, right? So a healthy morning routine that kind of sets us up for a good day. Eating healthy food, regular exercise again is better than Prozac, and there's less side effects. In fact, some research says exercise actually makes you smarter. That's what they said. So playing music, musical instrument, because you're doing multiple things in your brain. Your brain is split in two halves, and you have these multiple folds. And I ask how many different parts there are of brains, because I've heard of so many different parts, and that they're finding new stuff in the brain even now. And that I think they said there was like 80 some different parts of brain. So instrument practice kindness, expressing gratitude, and spending time with a friend, etc. Number 3, inspired action. Inspired action is setting mindful goals, giving our lives meaning and direction. I'll repeat. Number 3, that builds hope, is inspired action. Okay, and that is setting meaningful goals. We talked about goal a while ago, about goals and purposes. And having that purpose in that direction, that gives you hope. That's faith. That's moving you forwards. Instead of moving in fear and regret and shame, you're moving forwards, and that's hopeful, right? Would you agree with that? And so you need to set SMART goals. They need to be specific, measurable, attainable, reliant, time-bound, means they need to be set in a positive, reasonable amount of time that's realistic, to set these goals, a date that you can achieve it, a way you need to achieve it. And if you set too big of a goal, you need to break it down in the pieces. That they call that chunking. Most of the time, almost everything needs to be chunked down, because sometimes our brain can only handle little chunks at a time. You know what I mean? Have you ever heard how you eat an elephant? One small bite at a time. Right? All right. So you got to chunk it down. And then visualize it. Visualize what you're going to do. If you can't see yourself doing it, you'll never be able to do it. So you need to visualize it. You need to see it. Okay? And then see yourself doing it, seeing yourself reaching it. And also be kind to yourself and say, well, if I'm not able to do that, here's plan B. And sometimes plan B is better than plan A. So, number 4, networking. Networking for hope, okay? And I think you said something about a network a while ago. And building hope, it builds a hope mindset involving a team, people that you can trust, that you can depend on, that you can share with, that you can talk about your setbacks and your successes, your goals, that these are your people that you can trust, that you can be open with, and that that you can even, go to when you need some help as far as working through some of your issues. If Einstein says you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Do I need to say that again? Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And that's one of the reasons why we need to have a team. We need to have another person with another frame of reference to help us to process. That's another mind. How about that? Threw a little Einstein in on you. Okay? That wasn't in the information, but we need to find best friends. We gotta need a hope team. We need wise mentors, a trusted family member. Hopefully, if we have one, a supportive teacher, a doctor, a therapist, a faith leader, a counselor, a coach. Okay, all these individuals can help us to build hope in our life. I was talking with a man this week. I said, do you think you know everything? He said, no. I said, so don't you think you need to seek out help to help you find your way through this minefield of life? And he said, yes. He said, but I used to, but I stopped doing that because of I went stupid. Well, you see it now. Let's do different, right? Does anybody here relate with this statement? Don't we all?
Guys,
Don't we all? Out there in the internet land, do I hear an amen out there?
amen.
So, all right. So, we have to build relationships, and every garden, has to be cultivated, has to be dealt with, right? To help it to flourish. Relationships are the same way. Connections are the same way. Okay. Number 5, all right? This is the last one. This is E, for eliminating hope challenges, okay? So the challenges include habits. Remember I talked about unhealthy habits, right? Bad habits that can drag you down and move you from hope into hopelessness. Go into that downward spiraling receptacle into the abyss. You know what I mean? And so we have to eliminate worry. I heard this here a while back, and I know I've said it down here. I heard someone say worry is a fearful prayer, a prayer of fear. I think is the way they said it. Worry is a prayer of fear. So why are you praying for bad stuff to come into your life by worrying about it? See, you get whatever you think about. Whatever you think upon expands, it grows. Chris was talking about neuroplasticity. Whatever you think on causes it to grow. So if you're thinking or ruminating, which is another word they have on here, then that grows up. Those are some of those challenges we're talking about. So we need to eliminate our own challenges that we put in our own life, and that negative voices that scream at you. Anybody have any screaming negative voices that says you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're worthless, and you're no good? And maybe you hear it in somebody else's voice, or maybe your own voice. But you need to recognize that. You need to say, wait a minute. Is that really true? Is it absolutely true? Or was that just their sick opinion? And does it have to be my opinion? And if it is my opinion, then that means I caught their same sickness. What do you think about that? Is that too much? Can you handle that? Okay. All right. So where we're at is overcoming stress, these stress challenges. And so what we need to do, this is kind of a review here. We need to practice our stress skills. Ones I mentioned, ones you'll go find. We have to practice those happiness habits, finding things that make us happy. Look for things that build us up instead of tearing us down or poison us. Okay. Number 3 is inspired action. Do things that are good, that are helpful, that are kind, that you're generous and you're able to recognize good in other things and encourage people. Inspired acts, okay? Action. And then build your network of hope, your team, your people. Because we can't heal alone. 2 brains are better than 1. Hello? Now, maybe you had a secondary brain once upon a time that wasn't so helpful, but maybe you need to make a little healthier choice. Just saying. Come on in. So, questions, comments, statements? Yep.
Did I miss the bracelets?
We didn't offer bracelets, but if you want a bracelet, we can fix you. What do you want? What do you need?
Oh, wait, one.
Okay. Willie, Tommy? So, a 30-day bracelet, is that right? Is that what you needed, a 30?
The white one is for today.
It is for today, up to 30 days. So, all right, good deal. And Matthew, you were wanting one here the other day. Did you get one? Okay, anybody else need one? Okay, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. Okay, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years. All right. Celebrating your clean time from whatever it is you're celebrating that you're clean from. So, anything else? May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. And of course, make healthy choices.